Hey everybody, this is Data Pioneer with the Linux Unix Tech Channel, and thanks for joining me today. And I'm out on my Deepin 15.11 Linux distro, and today I want to talk about Glances. And Glances is a utility that allows you to monitor your system in Linux, and unlike Top and HTOP, Glances is a little bit better at being a tool you can use to troubleshoot issues that you may be having with Linux, and we'll get into that here in a moment. Just want to let you know that I'm a member of the Western North Carolina Linux Users Group here in my hometown, and I was giving a presentation today in Glances, and we had some glitches with the equipment for projecting onto the screen. So I told everybody I would just do a video showing them how Glances works on my system and any Linux system for that matter, where Glances can be installed, and I don't know of any distro that can't be installed in. But let's get into it here. Let me right click on the desktop and open a terminal, and open up the terminal to full screen. Now, Glances, if we do a man page on Glances, you can see that it is a cross-platform curses-based monitoring tool. It provides a lot of information on the screen in a small amount of space, and it's actually designed to fit an 80 by 24 terminal with a bunch of information, and there are a lot of switches that you can utilize here to use Glances, and it can be used in a couple of different configurations, and we're going to look at some of those. So let me get out of this. Glances can be used as a standalone in the terminal for monitoring your system, or it can be used as a client-server configuration, so you can have the server running on the system, and then you can go out on the web or on your LAN and with a client, and you can touch the IP address of your server, and you can monitor your systems that way remotely. And then the third way you can take a look at Glances for monitoring your Linux system is using the web. Now, in order to install Glances, now I've got Deepin, which is a Debian-based. If you've watched one of my previous videos, you know it's a Debian-based distro of Linux based on its origin being out of China, based on Debian. And Deepin 15.11 used to be Deepin Linux before version 15. So it uses the Aptitude package manager since it is Debian. So let's clear the screen. To install Glances, you would need to run the command sudo apt-get install Glances. Okay, that would install Glances. But if you want to get the webhook that allows you to monitor your processes via the web, then you need to install an additional package, which is Python bottle. So you got two packages here, Glances and Python bottle. So let me go ahead and run it. It's already installed, but it'll just say that it can't be installed because it's already there. Yeah. So Glances is already the newest version, and that's version 2.7.1.1-2. And Python bottle is already installed, the newest version being 0.12.13-1. Okay, so nothing to do here. But that's how you would do it now. You would run this sudo apt-get install Glances Python bottle. Now, if you are on a RPM-based system, Red Hat system like Red Hat or CentOS or Fedora 31 even, then you would want to run a DNF install Glances and Python bottle. Okay. All right. So it's similar, and if you're in an Arch, you'd run it with this Arch-based package manager. All right. So Glances is written in Python, and then the Python bottle gives you the hook into the web. So let me clear the screen here. I'm going to go ahead and run Glances, just the standard uh, command, and I'll show you what it looks like. So if I run Glances, it pulls up a bunch of information here, and if you're familiar with top, so let's go out on another terminal. If you run top, you have this kind of presentation, which shows you a lot of information. Granted, I mean, it shows you the top processes running, how long you've been up and running, how many users there are on the system, the load average for each minute, 5 minutes, and 15 minutes on average aggregately, number of total tasks, the number running, the number sleeping, the number stopped, the number zombie. It gives you CPU percentages for user space and system space and etc. Okay, it even gives you information on memory and swap for total, free, and used, and cached, and buffer, and available, and then shows you the top processes here. I think it's the top 25 actually. So that's all well and good, but it's not a good troubleshooting tool necessarily. Especially if you're having issues with, for instance, your hard drive. So let's clear this one out. And htop basically is the same as top, except it's more human readable. It's it's kind of a pseudo GUI base. It's also got a graph here, and that kind of thing. Kind of rearranges the information around a little bit. You can change that, of course, in the configuration down here for setup, but basically the same information is being projected here or presented. And so that's really not going to help you that much more either. All right. However, Glances, if you can look back at here at this particular terminal, let me go ahead and close these two terminals. Clear that. Okay, and let me clear this one. Get it out of the way. All right. This has got a bunch of information that the other two do not have or does not have. For instance, it tells you the laptop name, fully qualified domain name, tells you the IP address locally on the LAN of your device. In this case, 192.168.1.36/24. It also gives you the public IP address here, which is for me 96.37.21.16. Okay. It gives me CPU information, tells me a 94.5% CPU usage right now. It's got yellow, which is I had the other two windows open here, terminals open, so it's starting to approach being maxed. Memory is at 13%, swap is 0%, CPU is 91.6%. Then I've got two cores here, so I've got a load of two cores. User space percentage and system base percentage, 14.8 for system, 90 or 60, 59 point something right now for user space, 8.7% to CPU usage for idleness, 17.1% niceness. IRQ is not being used by the CPU. The I/O wait right now, which is the wait time between CPU cycles for the read-write of the hard drive, it's 0%. Your steal percentage, which is if you had a virtual machine going here and stealing CPU cycles, and then that would be indicated here. Got other information here. You got memory 13.1%, active 1.36 gigs, total 7.74 gigabytes, used 1.01, and 6.72 free. Of the active memory, 1.22 is inactive, and buffers 548 megs, cached 1.72 gigabytes. For swap here, got a total of 11 gigs, used nothing, free 11. And then for your load averages, for 1 minute you got 3.15, 5 minutes 2.87, which is getting to be critical. So I'm not sure what's using putting a load on the system right now, but it's being loaded for. Oh, I know what it is. I'm running VocoScreen to actually do this presentation, to record the desktop, and so it's starting to pull the CPU here, it looks like. All right, in addition to this information, which is what I like about glances. You also have information here on the network, and it's ENP0S25. If you're not familiar with that, if you're more familiar with ETH0, ETH1 for Ethernet, the EN stands for Ethernet, P is for port, so that's port 0, and then S is the socket. And so the connection that I'm using right now is ENP0S25, which is Ethernet port 0 slot 25. Okay. All right, so 157 tasks, 488 threads, 1 running, 144 sleeping, 42 other, and sorted automatically by CPU percentage on a flat view. LO is the loopback, and then a WLP12S0, which is the wireless port 12 slot 0, which is actually what I'm using. This is for a wired connection. Is here. Okay, so I am receiving 304 bits because that's what's generating this information here. The default gateway information, 48 milliseconds here for default gateway access. Shows the information here for the CPU usage. For disk I/O, it's got SDA 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it has the information here on read and writes per second for those partitions. I have file information or file system information here, used and total space for SDA2 for the home directory, 1.23 gigabytes used, 378 gigabytes total. This is a 1 terabyte hard drive. Here I've got IRQ, LOC, RAS, and other information as well displayed here. And then here's the timestamp. It's December the 7th, 2019 at 18:21:40, which is 6:21:40 p.m. Warning or critical alerts, one entry. There is an ongoing load of 1.0, accessing 1.0 here for the, I guess, Voco screen is doing that. And so it is a critical alert here for the system. Now, this is Glances out on the terminal. This is the standalone access to Glances. I'm going to go ahead and close it. And so I close the terminal, reopen the terminal here, and get back in. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up the web-based interface for Glances. I want to issue the command Glances with the W switch. And it should give me a URL that's rendered here. And when it's rendered, then I'm going to go ahead and select it and open it in the browser. So I'm going to do a right click and open link. That should pull up the browser and bring up the web-based interface for Glances. Okay, so, and you'll notice here that this is, I'm using a lot of CPU here, and that's because I'm using Voco Screen to create this this recording. So it's using a lot of CPU for some reason. I'm not really sure why Voco Screen's doing that. I'll probably have to get another one that doesn't use quite as much CPU time. But anyway, this is Glances in a web interface. And so you're able to pull it up via the web, and this way you could take this and can access it remotely if you wanted to, and even share it with somebody else if you wanted to do that in a web-based interface. A little better looking than the terminal. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out. All right, the next thing I want to do here, I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this and exit out of the terminal and get back into the terminal again. And now I'm going to show you the third configuration for Glances, which is a server client configuration. And this could be used on the LAN where you have this machine running, my laptop for instance that I'm running on right now, and you want to analyze that system. So you could go to another computer, it could be a Linux based or it could be Windows for that matter, because Glances, by the way, is cross-platform. So it runs on Linux, Mac OS, or Windows, either one. But you could run it this client-server arrangement and access glances remotely and manage and monitor this system from a remote machine where you're running the server on this machine and you're accessing it with a client on another machine. And I'll demonstrate that by opening two terminal windows here. So the first terminal window, I'm going to start the server up. Now this server is not a web-based server, it is a glances server, okay? And so to actually invoke that, I'm going to type in glances -c, -s rather, for server. And so that should start the server. And there we are. The server is running on the local host at port 61209. I'm going to open up another terminal and pretend this is on another machine somewhere on the LAN. Let me go back to this machine. Well, no, I'm sorry. This is my local laptop. Pretend this is another machine, but for now I need to get on this machine to find the IP address of it, and I think I know what it is, but let me just check it. IP or IF config, and it tells me that the IP address is 192.168.1.36, so let me go ahead and clear that. Alright, so pretend this is another machine on the LAN, and what I want to do is I want to access this server that's running here on 192.168.1.36, okay, using this client. And so what I'm going to do is issue the command to bring up the client, alright, and then put in the IP address of the server that I want to access, which is 192.168.1.36, and that should bring up the client. There we go, the client with the glances information, okay, and I'm still getting a CPU warning, high CPU usage. But yeah, so here we are. This is different from the standalone terminal interface that we saw earlier. This can be done from any machine where you invoke the client, or invoke the server rather, on the original machine, i.e. the laptop, and then bring up the client on the secondary machine and then access it from the server running on the server on the other Linux machine that you're monitoring rather. And it's not a web server because this isn't a website. This is the glances server, okay? And so that's three different configurations. The standalone we looked at earlier, the web-based hook that you have with the Python bottle and accessing them via the web, and then now this one that you access via the client-server interface. All right, so let me go ahead and close this. Let me go ahead and get rid of this one altogether. All right, and now once I've done that, let me go ahead and close this one as well. Clear that out. And then I want to show you that you can additionally also export out the snapshot information of what the glances application looks at for your Linux system. You can take a snapshot of it and you can save it out as a CSV or a comma separated value file and store it locally, or you can transmit it via email to a technician that might want to look at it and see if they can tell what's going on with your system and troubleshoot it better, that kind of thing. And by the way, you can run sysbench on your Linux system and you can put a load on it and then monitor see what happens in glances to see what's happening to the I/O and see what's happening to the CPU depending on which load you put on. And that way you can diagnose better problems that you might have, find bottlenecks with your Linux system. Alright, so the way to do this is you want to type the command glances export CSV and then the file name, and the file that you're going to save it to gets saved to where you currently are in the system, your current working directory, which is desktop in my case, so home Data Pioneer desktop. And so I want to call this exported snapshot, okay, .csv. Hit the enter key and it's going to take a snapshot, bring up the interface. Alright, now I can go ahead and close this interface, and then since I'm on the desktop I can do an ls-lh and you can see that the exported snapshot.csv file is right there. Okay, so let's get out of the terminal and let's get back onto the desktop, and here it is, exported snapshot.csv. And I've got WPS Office installed on the Deepin 1511. So I'm going to right click and open this with WPS spreadsheets. And it'll bring up, hopefully, the CSV file. All right, and here it is. Now you need to go in and pretty it up because it's just a raw file. But here's the timestamp, and here's memory swap percentage here, and so we'd need to go in and expand these columns, and that way you got a prettier looking CSV file. But this is a pretty lengthy file. It goes out quite a bit, so it has all this information for network, for disk I/O, for memory, for CPU usage. It's a bunch. And there's a way you could get in here and you could expand all these columns in one fell swoop, so you don't have to spend all day trying to get it to look the way it should. But anyway, you could take that file and you could save it, and then you could email it to a technician and they could review it and get back to you. Alright, so this has been a quick look at Glances, a utility for Linux, which is cross-platform, curses based, which gives you a bunch of information and allows you to basically troubleshoot your Linux system if you're having issues, and find out what the problem is, if you're having a problem with your hard drive, or if you're having an issue with read and write execution for the drive, or if you've got CPU issues, memory issues, that kind of thing. And so hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, go ahead please and hit the subscribe button, and when you do, click that bell off to the right hand side, and go ahead, and that way you'll be notified every time I upload a video. I'll go ahead and put a link out here for some information to get a description of the things that Glances presents to you as well on the web. I have a link out to a website there that helps you with that, and you can always run a man page on it as well to get that information. But if you don't want to do that, I will put the link down below the video. This video is also going to be placed up on the Western North Carolina Linux Users Group for my hometown in Asheville, North Carolina. If you haven't subscribed to that, go ahead and subscribe to that as well, and hit that bell also, so that every time I upload a video to that, you'll also see it. So this has been Data Pioneer. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.